What's going on, guys? Hope you guys are doing good. This video is going to be about my buddy's Sportster that I just finished up. I want to go over what this bike is, all of the parts on it, and also why I think a bike like this is going to be the perfect first bike. So my buddy John met me at a bike event called the Back Road Barbecue Run in May of this year. And the Back Road Barbecue Run is kind of like a chopper camp out party get together like that. It's not really one of the Harley Davidson dealership hot dog eating contest, leather contest. It's not one of those. It's more of bikes like this, choppers. This isn't the chopper, but it's more about choppers and home built bikes. It's a kind of a different group of people. So I invited my buddy John out, who I was in the Marine Corps with, because he lives down in that area. And I said, hey, it's been like 12 years since I've seen you. Come out, let's hang out. And when he got there, he was just blown away at how different of a culture it was and how different of a scene it was. And throughout that weekend, he kept saying, man, I've got to get a bike. I've got to get one of these. I got to start doing this kind of stuff with you. I've got a really good group of friends that I hang out with and ride with and go on trips with. And he said, man, I've got to get a bike to do that with. So I didn't have any for sale at the time, but my buddies Seth and Justin, who helped me out a ton with this bike, they had a titled frame. And I had another buddy who had a 883 4-speed motor that was missing a few things, slightly blown up, for really cheap. I told John, send me the money to pick up the parts and I'll get started on a bike. And that was about June. And so I already had some of the pieces for this bike. I had already got the non-spoked wheels, which I think are the best looking Harley wheels. And I already had this front end that I had shaved, and it's just a stock length tubes, Harley non-spokes, running brakes front and rear, and then some Kenda, I forget the model number, tire of these, but I found them really cheap on eBay and I actually really like them. I think I'm gonna run these on my next bike. That's the wheels in the front end, and I had a set of bars that I ran on my bike for about 10 years that I started out with on this bike, and I thought they looked really cool with this front end, but I ended up going with these apes from Roth Cycle Solution. You can find him on Instagram. They're some of the cooler bars that I've seen, and they're stainless and they were really affordable. The reason I didn't go with the other bars is the first tank that I purchased for this was for a K model Sportster, and it just didn't quite fit. It was really, I was fighting it too much to get it to fit. And my buddies Seth and Justin had this King tank on the wall. It was really rusty, but the inside was clean. That's what I ended up going with. Once I made the tank wider, those narrow bars didn't fit, so that's why I went with the wider handlebars. And I'm running, sorry about the wind, and I'm running a dual throttle cable. This is one of the cheaper JMP Cycles, just generic throttle cables, but I like running dual throttle cables, especially on CV carbs, so that's why I went with that. Some Biltwell recoil grips that I really like. I've got that on another bike. And then the controls, I ended up going with custom chrome because they have an eBay store where they sell scratch and dent stuff. So I got these really cheap also, and they were brand new, and the front brakes work really, really well. And then I got some, I think these mirrors were 18 bucks for both of them, and they work really, really well. They don't even vibrate. So I'm probably buying a set of these for my chopper. But that's the front end and the wheels. The gas tank, again, is a King Sportster tank. I just sprayed it with black spray paint, and then my buddy Seth painted a tiger on the tank in like traditional tattoo flash, because John and I's squadron in the Marine Corps was the tigers. So I thought that would be a cool little tank thing. I didn't want to spend money on decals or anything, but something cool on the tank would be cool. I really like the tank. It came out really well. I appreciate it, Seth, if you watch this video. And then the seat, this came from one of my buddies, Ethan. We did some trading, but these seats are probably the most comfortable Sportster seats available anywhere. And this one only has one little hole in the front. So all the parts on this bike, except for maybe the sprocket cover and maybe the mid controls, I got from buddies of mine trading, or just, you know, asking for it, begging for it. That kind of stuff. Most of it came from Seth and Justin. And the carburetor. I did have to buy a new carburetor. The carburetor is one of the Chinese CV carb clones, and they're $40 regular price. And I found this one, I forget which sale it was, one of those sales, but it was half off. So this carburetor was $19, and the bike's been sitting for, I don't know, an hour or two, and this is how it runs. So just turn the gas on. I'm not touching anything. This is how, and I dropped the key. This is how good this bike runs. So you barely have to bump the starter with this carburetor. And then I'm running one of the Prism CV mounts so that I can wrap the chuck cable back around. And then I'm actually using a Road King air cleaner, which was kind of an accident. It was just in a tub of parts, and I was messing around one day trying to put an air cleaner together that I could actually run a filter with. And this mounts up to those CV brackets really well. It looks good, I think. And I think it actually helped with the power. I run stock air boxes on a couple of my bikes, and I think this is a really good budget way to get a little bit more power out of a Sportster motor, is just running this setup. So again, I'll probably be using a lot of the stuff that happened to this bike on my next bike. The pipes are actually for a rigid frame Sportster. I had bought them for my chopper and then didn't use them. So they're a little incorrect, but they still look good. They sound fantastic. I just had to do a little bit of drilling out on the mounts and kind of rig up a little bit of mounts. Now getting into the motor, this came to me from one of my buddies he's bought 2 of my bikes and then sold me one back, but he had it sitting in his garage for years, slightly taken apart. They had robbed some parts off of it, and we put it together. I popped it off, actually rode it up and down the road, and it had a base gasket leak. And that's when we pulled the cylinder off and realized that it was missing two of the piston rings. It only had the compression ring on top, and it was running like that, not smoking or anything, but the piston had a piece missing out of it, and that's what was between the cylinder and the block causing that leak. And luckily we found all the pieces to that piston, so I knew there was none down in the motor. But I replaced the piston with another used piston that wasn't matched to the cylinder, and it runs great, doesn't smoke at all. It's one of the better running 883s, especially 4-speed, that I've ever seen. And it's kind of wild that it came together and it runs so good with really used parts, really all used parts. We took the lifters apart and cleaned them. Again, resealed the motor, went through the primary and the clutch a little bit. There was one part missing in there that I ended up having to purchase, but it looked really good. The motor actually looked in good shape. I think somebody just went to go do maybe a 1200 kit and they lost interest and then started robbing parts off of it. Yeah, it runs really good. I've put about 250 miles on it in the past 2 days, just around the house, really trying to break it so that if I take it down there, the first thing that happens, it won't break on John. So total, it's got about 350 miles on it since putting it together, and it's running great. It's an 883, which is, I think, one of the better motors Harley ever made, just because of how tough they are. It's got plenty of power to get up to 70, 75. I'm running a 22 tooth front sprocket and a 48 rear, and that just allows me to have a little bit higher of a gear than factory, because again, this is about a 40-year-old motorcycle. I think the year is 1987 or 88. About a 40-year-old motorcycle. Back then, they weren't really designing these things to get on the interstate and go 85, 90 miles an hour like modern motorcycles. And I don't like doing that anyway. It can go 70, 75, no problem. You can cruise there. It's got plenty of power to rip around. And then you're also not gonna get, it's controllable. You can really rag out an 883. The rear fender back here, all of the parts these were all spare parts left over from a couple hardtail builds, running a 13.5-inch shock in the rear and stock up front, and that gives it a really level profile. And with these apes, it's a really fun riding position, but a little bit higher in the rear than most Sportsters. This rear fender came from a bike that looked like it had been on fire. It's got a lot of dents, a lot of dings, but again, I just hosed it down with some black spray paint. There's a little bit of a pinstriped accent on the back, and then I remounted the plastic mud guard up front to keep all the water off the electronics. How this thing's wired is into an Amazon fuse box. So there's 6 fuses available for this circuit. I think there's only 4 being used right now. They work really well. And then if you have something that goes bad, a circuit go bad, it might not kill your bike, and you can automatically see which one it went bad because it lights up in the panel. So really affordable. I think they're 15 bucks, maybe tops 25 bucks on Amazon, and you have 6 places that you can run power out of your main power. So that's how this bike is wired. Stock brake switch, stock brake line, and then a stock taillight, and then a little lay down license plate from TC Bros. And then I think this sissy bar is actually for something else, but it lines up perfectly mounting on the outside of these curved fender struts on these years. And I think it actually looks better than the ones that slide in between the fender strut and the fender. And I think these are really good bikes. I think they're overlooked. The 883 4-speeds especially, they're some of the most fun motorcycles out there, especially if you're wanting to get into kind of older Harley stuff. They're one of the most fun bikes to ride because of that 4-speed gearbox. You can kind of, once you get up in 4th gear on a road, you can kind of get it, you can leave it there and kind of just enjoy your ride. You're not shifting gears from 35 to 70. You can keep it in 4th, and it just kind of feels like an older bike. I mean, it is an older bike, but it kind of feels a little bit different than a more modern 5-speed. I think if you're looking to get into kind of choppers, kind of vintage Harleys, home built kind of stuff, these are a perfect first bike, and I hope that John will enjoy it. He lives down there at the beach, so I hope that this build works down there as well as it does up here in the mountains. But they have a little bit flatter land, a little bit straighter road. Might have to mess with his sprockets a little bit. But overall, I think it'll be a great bike for him. I think it'll be a safe bike for him with really good brakes, not overpowered motor, and really good handling from the Sportster platform, especially this one. This one handles, one of my buddies that rode it said that this bike is comically easy to ride, especially compared to a sketchy chopper. But I really enjoy it. I kind of don't want to take it down to him in the next couple days, but he's already paid me the money, so I guess I will be doing that. But I want to say thank you to Seth and Justin for helping me out so much on this bike. There was a lot of stuff on here that I probably could have figured out, but it would have taken me a long time, and Justin and Seth really helped me out a ton on this. And also, I don't care if you like or subscribe or any of that stuff, but let me know what you think about 4-speed 883s down in the comment section, or let me know what your favorite older Harley is. I think those stories are neat, and I just enjoyed motorcycles and talk about motorcycles. So I think that's going to be it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope John enjoys this bike. I'll see you later.